This is the 6th and final episode in our series of performance testing in Ruger Old Army revolvers. We've been testing 3 different bullet types: the round ball, the standard 225 grain conical bullet, and the 255 grain heavy conical for hunting made by Kaido Ojamaa. Each of these projectiles has been tested with both Goex 3FG black powder and with Hodgdon's Triple-7 black powder substitute. In this episode, we're going to be testing Kaido's heavy bullet with 777 powder.
Now, when we switch to 777 and Kaido's bullet, we've got to take into account the way 777 behaves when we're working up a load. And that's why this mark I showed you before that shows how deep in the chamber that bullet is going to be is important, because 777 does not like compression. So I'm actually using a 25 grain load of 777, and I'll show you how I know that's right. Now, I know there are a lot of people who are going to just load these things up with as much 777 as the chamber can hold, and I would say that that is a bad practice, because you can get very erratic pressures with that, which can lead to accuracy problems. I don't think you'll blow up the Ruger, it's a strong gun, but I would load 777 the way the manufacturer says to do it, which is without compression. So I'm going to pour the 777 in. Now I'm going to take that dowel that is marked and we're going to put it in. And as you can see, we're still going to have a tiny bit of compression on that bullet, and I would not want any more than that with 777. So now we'll pop a bullet in, one of Kaido's slugs, send them around, and seat them. There we go. Okay, so Kaido loads those hard, like I said, and it makes them very tough to seat. If I was casting them, I believe I would do it in pure lead like I do mine. Well, let's put the 5.5-inch barreled Ruger on paper using Kaido's bullet and 25 grains of 777. Well, let's see what kind of speed we can get out of Kaido's conicals when we push them with 777. And we'll start off with the 5.5-inch barrel. Well, we got some pretty impressive results out of Goex, so let's see how Kaido's bullet does when it's powered by 777. And we'll start off with the 5.5-inch barrel. Well, Kaido's slug, powered by T7 and the Shorty Ruger, went through 10 jugs and stopped in the 11th. And here's the slug. That's pretty good. Well, let's see what kind of accuracy we can get out of the 7.5-inch barreled Ruger loaded with Kaido's bullet and 777.
Well, once again, the 7.5-inch barreled Ruger printed group so high it was out of visibility of the camera, which I didn't realize until I was back home with the film editing it. So you're just going to have to take my word for it that the group was 3 3/4 inches in diameter. I haven't lied to you yet, so I'm not going to start now. So we'll move on to the velocity test.
And now let's see how the 7.5-inch barrel pushes out those 255 grain Kaido conicals powered by T7. .922.9, not bad. Alright, this is it. I hope I don't jinx it. Last one. We're going to be shooting Kaido's slug with 777 through the 7.5-inch barreled Ruger. And let's see how many bottles we can bust. Okay, we got 11 and we lost it clean out of the side of the 11th one, so that's pretty darn good.
I think that performance is pretty awesome just as it is, but the hunting crowd wanted me to let you know that Clement's Custom Guns has a service where they'll deepen the chambers of your Ruger Old Army so it can hold more powder and give you a more devastating hit. So if you're interested in that service, it's available.
Well, this series of tests of projectiles and powder in the Ruger Old Army is done, and it's never going to be repeated. Now, I'm not going to pretend this is a truly scientific test. In fact, I would urge any of you who are interested to duplicate it and see what kind of results you get, because really, you should do a lot more of each of these segments before you make any conclusions. But it's been interesting. One thing we can say for sure is that if you're going to be a black powder handgun hunter for big game and particularly for dangerous game, you probably want to use Kato's bullet and you probably want to use 777 because you want to make sure you get all that penetration. So that is one lesson learned out of this. Now the other lesson I learned out of this is that I'm never doing this again. It was fun, but it was work. You can probably tell the weather's been changing. It's taken a couple of weeks here in October to run this test because it's just a lot of shooting with 2 guns, 3 projectiles, 3 different powders. It's a lot of cap and ball loading. I've cleaned between every 10 rounds to make sure we stay consistent. So it's been a lot of shooting, a lot of work at the loading bench, and we shot up over 100 bottles during the course of this test. We had a couple of retakes on things, so we shot pretty close to 115 water bottles. And I gotta tell you, those nice folks at Walmart are starting to look at me funny every time I come up to the register with 2 shopping carts completely full of gallon water jugs. So I think we're about done with this. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's been fun, and I'll see you later.